way it will be structured is that each will give a small presentation of about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll then have some discussion. So, without much ado, I'd like to invite Dr. W.G. Prasanna Kumar, who will be speaking on environmental policy, public aspiration, and policy response. Dr. Prasanna Kumar is currently the director of the National Green Corps. He is also the senior social scientist at the AP Pollution Control Board. He has worked as a resource person in a wide variety of organizations, such as the Judicial Academy, the Police Academy, the Forest Academy, with the Commissionerates of Higher and Secondary Education, the State Council, SERB, and CRT, and so on and so forth. We are extremely honored to have you here, and I will not take up much more. Please.
Good morning, friends, Mr. Chairman, sir. It's a privilege to be here amongst you people who are keen on interacting on environmental and sustainable development issues. Indian environmental policy is driven by Indian constitutional mandates. Indian constitutional mandates have changed post emergency, post 42nd Amendment, when we have the citizens' duties and directives, principles of state policy also introduced in support of environmental conservation. So you have on the one hand the duty of the state to support environmental conservation, to take care of environment and natural resources. And on the other hand, we have duties of citizens which are enshrined there, where it is the duty of every citizen to protect the environmental resources. So, initially, the impetus for environmental policy, though it has its roots in the Constitution of India, the impetus always came in from the international conventions, whether it is the Stockholm Conference or the conferences and conventions which came out later. So the learnings which came in internationally have been incorporated into the statutes. That's how in the first law of environmental conservation, in terms of taking a particular resource, the Water Act came in 1974 and the Air Act came in 1981. And when you have moments of catastrophe or moments of emergency or moments which have far-reaching effects, like the Bhopal gas disaster, you take stock of what you have been doing and also pave way or create a roadmap for future. That's how the Umbrella Act of Environment Protection Act has come in 1986 after the Bhopal gas disaster. The environmental statutes, environmental policy in India has always been promoting environmental statutes, environmental laws which consider environmental violations as criminal acts. So environmental policy has been looking at how we can actually see if there is a crime, environmental crime, it is punished. But post Bhopal gas disaster and long judicial activity on that, the public liability insurance has come into play, where if there is a loss to public, there is a need to compensate it. So in terms of environmental crime or environmental activities which lead to environmental degradation, there are two ways by which we look at it. One is whether an act has violated a statutory condition or violated the standard prescribed, or Second is the whose rights it has actually impinged upon. Any violation, if it has impinged upon somebody's rights or has created a loss to somebody, how do you redeem that loss? So there are two directions in which the environmental policy actually took its direction post 2006 National Environmental Policy. Till 2006 National Environmental Policy, we had forest policy, we had water policy, we had wildlife related issues. So we had various aspects of environment and environmental degradation which were present in statutes in various places. Only thing is we have to knit them together or take them together and make them into a necklace to see that there is a policy there. But post 2006, in 2006 we have an environmental policy which is working on parallelly wetlands, working on waste management, working on agriculture, working on the industrial waste and water pollution, issues relating to wetlands conservation. All these things have been brought into one framework with the National Environmental Policy 2006. So this is in response to the public need again. So whenever an issue came up, who would be the agency which will actually look into resolving it? Suppose there is a need for dealing with the urban waste. So is there an environmental agency which looks after that or which takes care of that? Then we immediately look at the municipal bodies or the rural local bodies, which panchayats or municipal corporations, municipal councils, to take care of or to deal with that issue. But the way they are structured, they are not environmental organizations. They are basically a civic support agency. So the 2006 environmental policy actually dwells on this issue and comes out with a solution of having an environmental protection agency. For instance, if we have a complaint relating to drainage or the water being, the drinking water being mixed with some sewage, or there is a pollution, or there is a dump in the neighborhood, or there is an odor in the neighborhood from a slaughterhouse or from any waste rotten up. We look at the Pollution Control Board as an agency. In case we have a honking in the neighborhood and if you have a loudspeaker creating noise in the neighborhood, what is Pollution Control Board doing about it? So that is the answer that is the question which we have, and we are looking forward for answers. But in terms of the mandate of an institution, we do not have one institution which has a mandate here. So while environmental policy has been a response to the need for environmental conservation coming from farmers, coming from citizens in various spheres, the response as an institutional backup falls in the gamut of various ministries. So the policy has been a main work of the Ministry of Environment and Forests, but in terms of its implementation, the role of Ministry of Environment and Forests is very, very minimal. Because if it is wetlands, then the urban local bodies or the panchayats or the irrigation department has a hold on that, has a control over that. So what happens to a wetland or what happens to a change of land use around a wetland is definitely not in the realm of the Pollution Control Board, or that is the only agency which the Ministry of Environment and Forest has. So while the concerns of citizens on various aspects of environment have been raised and have been efficiently incorporated in the environmental policy, national environmental policy, the institutional mechanism for implementing or for dealing with these concerns, these institutional mechanisms are not responsible or not under the purview of the Environment Ministry. So the subject of environment is all-pervading. It has urban local governments in it, it has panchayats in it, it has rural water supply in it, you have forestry in it, you have the irrigation department in it, you have agriculture department in it. So various departments are part of it, which do not report or which do not have any mandate to take the environmental concern into as their main concern. So that is why the National Environmental Policy also says that internalization of environmental concerns into various departmental activity is very critical, and that is one of the main items on which the NEP focuses. But for that to happen, it's basically lot of awareness, lot of training, mid-career level training, a lot of inputs at various levels to these institutions, which for them this activity is almost at the non-critical level, not very important. While as citizens we expect for instance, we expect a municipal body, a municipality or municipal corporation to be primarily responsible for waste management. In the municipal organization, municipality or municipal corporation, citizen for dealing with the citizen complaints or citizens issues related to waste management, we have a health section, and the health section is considered as the least important in terms of the total activity there. If you take the agriculture department or agricultural area into consideration, sustainable agriculture or the non-pesticide agriculture or bio-fertilizer, bio-pesticide-based agriculture, which the environment protection group would like to be the main forum or main activity. For the agriculture department, it is one of the sub-activities. So it doesn't become the guiding force for either agriculture or sericulture or animal husbandry, which are basically parts of the parent department. So when we are trying to promote in the environmental policy, we are saying biodiversity and native species should be conserved, while the focus of animal husbandry would be to have one species, hybrid species made available to everybody, and so which would mean that you have, instead of biodiversity, you have only one species. So while environmental concerns at the national level have been announced and have been very clearly put, in terms of implementation, the departments do not consider it as the guiding force for their departmental mandates. This has been the most critical and most difficult task of environment group, and the environmental policy, though it tried to mention this, is not able to actually address this in its implementation. So this every 3 years we were supposed to have a review of this at state level, at district level, at the level of panchayats, and also in institutions like the forest department, like the pollution control boards. It never happened. So we have completed 8 years. Now we are in the ninth year after the implementation of after the announcement of this policy. But review in terms of what has happened and whether it is addressing the needs is not there. So in 2001 we have the municipal solid waste management rules, but how many municipalities actually have a sanitary landfill or scientific landfill? in Andhra Pradesh, you will not find even one municipality which is dealing with this. So you have a law, you have a policy, you have a law, but in terms of its implementation, there is a huge gap. So the policy talks about, I would like to close with this point, that the policy basically talks about, since there is a huge gap between the resource required and the resource available, we need to get into public-private partnerships. So this is like jumping a little bit forward. So we do not have institutions which are convinced about the need to have the environmental concerns incorporated in their main agenda. Without the institutions convinced, if we go ahead with public policy, we have a situation where you have a landfill designed or created which doesn't fall into the sanitary landfill criteria, which the Department of Municipal Administration itself has given at the national level. So the policy and the statute and actual implementation, there's a huge gap between all these three. So for these things to be corrected and for the policy to be effectively implemented, we need to have institutional strengthening. That has not happened. Before that when we have taken up on tasks and when we go ahead with the public-private partnerships, we have agencies which are private agencies which have come in as players in waste management, in the municipal solid waste, in the sewage treatment, in the hazardous waste, but all of them consider that whatever is presently possible, let's do it. Not whatever is prescribed by the policy or whatever is prescribed by the statute or whatever is expected of them, but let's go by what is easily available or easily possible. To the extent, I just close with this one instance where we have one of the very huge hazardous waste management sites in Hyderabad, where we had more than 50,000 tons of hazardous waste suddenly out of an accident burnt. So the accident and then the effect of that burning is there in the environment. It is not there directly seen there. We cannot actually get it. But as per the Act, they're supposed to be very, very careful about this hazardous waste and store it very, very carefully till you get an alternate method of dealing that waste is waste, which means that you do not have technology to deal with the waste, but you have waste there. So that is the type of situation we have come into. So the institutional response is not adequate to actually deal with the public need, and definitely it is not in tune with the policy which is prescribed. And though at the policy level and at the statute level we have certain level of response, mostly the response in India has been in the context of judicial activism, whether it is the municipal solid waste management rules or hazardous waste management rules or the hospital waste management rules or even the sewage treatment. All these things have been in response to a public interest litigation filed in a High Court or a Supreme Court and to accommodate that direction from the Supreme Court, you have an institutional infrastructure. So, but after 2006 policy, you have an opportunity of incorporating all that. But in terms of institutional readiness, the institutions are not yet ready. So that is the crossroads in which we are presently waiting for an answer. Thank you.
What we'll do is we'll ask a few quick questions if there are any clarifications, or and then we can take detailed questions at the end of the session. So if there are any quick thoughts that come to mind.
Sir, we have biodiversity management committees and joint forest management committees at the Gram Sabha level. So is there any policy framework so that these two bodies can work in the area of pollution?
In the area of pollution, no. But Biodiversity Management Committee is formed under the Biodiversity Conservation Act, and joint forest management committees are formed under the Forest Conservation Act. So, biodiversity management committees have a legal status also, though the joint forest management committees do not have that type of statute backing. Biodiversity management committees have basic role in conservation of diversity in the species, and also stopping the entry of exotic species into an area, and also in protecting the endemic species. These are the main tasks which they do. And if somebody is trying to access that resource, and if there is a benefit which is to be shared with the community, that benefit is shared through the Biodiversity Management Committee. So their role in terms of actually getting into the urban or rural local bodies for the pollution related tasks is not envisaged in the Act. But well, if a committee by BMC, Biodiversity Management Committee, is very active in an area, then they can take up. But out of 20,000 villages that we have, we hardly have some 300 or 400 villages which have this Biodiversity Management Committees, which doesn't give them that type of support or that type of base to seek for a role there.
Okay, I am not a policy person, but what I got from your talk was that accountability is not located in any of the, these environmental and waste issues are part of different facets of policy, but they're not, accountability is missing. Is that what you're trying to say? And if it's not actually there, then how can we actually work towards it? So.
Okay, you have nailed it rightly. Accountability is an issue there. Accountability is the environmental policy tried to address that accountability by creating an umbrella organization called Environment Protection Authority. But that didn't happen anywhere in the country. We had at union level one minister who was very keen on pushing it, but before he could push it, he got pushed out. So there is no national level or state level Environment Protection Authority. If you have something like that, for instance, going back to your point, for instance, for promoting industries, we have a state level investment promotion board. For promoting tourism, we have a state level tourism promotion board where at the chief secretary level, at the chief minister level, they get reviewed and all departments come together. So there is no environmental yardstick basing on which these departments are measured or questioned or rated or even evaluated. They are not accountable that way. So the accountability only comes in terms of judicial intervention once in a while, or maybe once in 5 years a review by the executive.